Hello and welcome to Challenge Solutions. My name is Caitlyn, and in this video I'll be providing an introduction to navigating macOS using Voiceover. For this video we're going to keep it really simple, and I'm just going to show you a basic overview of the macOS file structure and navigating the dock and desktop. So if you're completely new to Voiceover, this will give you a good place to start. Please note that in this video, whenever I refer to the VO or voiceover keys, I am talking about Control and Option. So on this computer, which is a 13-inch 2020 M1 MacBook Pro with a touch bar, those are the two keys in the middle of the four keys to the left of the space bar. So when I say VO right arrow, I mean hold down Control and Option and press the right arrow. And that goes for any other keystroke that has VO in front of it. Hold down Control and Option and press the rest of the keystroke. These are the modifier keys that are used for pretty much every voiceover command, so you are going to be using them a lot. With that being said, we're going to transition to a screen recording, and I will show you an overview of this brand new Mac. Alright, I have started the screen recording. I believe those of you with functional eyeballs are now looking at the QuickTime Player screen recording window. I'm going to go ahead and move us away from that and show you guys the first really important keystroke to know when you are first learning to use a Mac with VoiceOver. That is the dock keystroke. Essentially, the dock is a panel where you can pin commonly used apps and folders and lots of different things. Think of it kind of like the dock at the bottom of your iPhone or iPad. That's the bottom row of apps that's at like the very lowest point of the screen. But you can pin lots of different things to this dock, and it's where you're going to want to put things that you need to access super often. The keystroke to access the dock is VOD or Control Option D as in Delta. I'm going to do that now.
Dock. Finder, open, 1 of 27.
So you heard VoiceOver say dock finder 1 of 27. That is telling us that we have moved to the dock, and it is currently on the Finder icon, and the Finder is the first icon in the dock. And there are 27 icons total on my dock. In this case, this dock just has the default icons that are pinned to the dock on every new Mac because I haven't made any alterations to it yet. But you can add your own apps and folders to the dock to access them quickly. To move through the different icons on the dock, you can use VO and the arrow keys. I will move a couple of icons so you can see that working.
Launchpad 2 of 27. Safari 3 of 27.
So I VO right arrow twice and landed on Safari, and then to open the Safari app, I can press VO space.
QuickTime Player. Safari. Start page window.
And that opened the Safari app. I don't need to do anything in Safari for this video, so I'm going to go ahead and press Command Q to quit Safari.
Finder. Desktop. Desktop group.
And that took me to my desktop. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the dock so I can show you the different ways to access the desktop and the Finder. So I'll press VOD again.
Dock. Safari 3 of 27.
And you heard that it landed back on the Safari icon because that's the last app I launched from the dock. From here, I can VO arrow left or right to go to different app icons, or I can jump to the top or the bottom with function, Control Option, left arrow, or right arrow. I'm going to go ahead and jump to the top with function, Control Option, left arrow.
Finder. Open. 1 of 27.
And you heard it say Finder, which is the first icon in my dock. I'll spend the rest of this video talking about the Finder because this is something that you're going to need to be very familiar with as you transition to a Mac from Windows or learn how to use your first Mac. And I'm going to do my best to provide a comparison between the Finder and Windows File Explorer because that's something that a lot of people struggle with as they transition from Windows, is getting used to the Mac file system. That's something that really confused me when I made the switch, so hopefully this will make it make a little bit more sense. So to access the Finder, I can VO space right here on this dock icon, and that will automatically put me in a new Finder window where I can start navigating the file system, or I can go to the desktop and do it that way. I'm going to go to the desktop because that's usually how I do it, and you guys need to know the desktop keystroke as well. So to get to the Mac desktop, press VO Shift D. I'll do that now.
Desktop group.
Now we are on the macOS desktop. If you are watching this with functional eyeballs, there's probably some kind of generic macOS desktop background picture on the screen right now. I don't know what it is, so I am sorry if it is terrible. But more importantly, the desktop is where all of the folders that you've saved to your desktop will show up, all the files that you've saved to your desktop will show up, and also where any external drives that you have connected will show up if you've enabled that in Finder Preferences. You can go into the Preferences menu for Finder and choose what you want to show on your desktop, and I recommend customizing that to your liking. I'm going to show you how to access the preferences now, but I'm not going to go through the Finder preferences because we'd be here forever, and that's something that you need to set up individually for yourself because you're going to want different things on your desktop than what I want on my desktop. Please ignore the Labrador that is now prancing around in the background. We are now going to open the Finder preferences with Command comma, and it's important to note that Command comma will open the preference menu for basically any app in macOS, not all of them, but that is a pretty universal keystroke to get to the preference menu for anything. So I'll press Command comma now just so you can hear that.
Preferences. Now in the Preferences window. Show all file name extensions. Checkbox.
So you guys heard that open the Finder preferences, and the first option in this preference menu is actually the Show File Name Extension checkbox, which I prefer to keep checked because it'll tell you what format documents are in when you move through them in the Finder, and I personally like to have that information so I know what app it's going to open in ahead of time. But again, that's something that you can customize for yourself, and there are a ton of things in this menu. You can move through it with VO left and right arrow and VO space to select things as you desire. So to close this, I'm just going to press escape.
Desktop group. Desktop.
And now we're back on the desktop. You'll notice that it's saying desktop group. That means that I have to interact with this group to see the items on my desktop. Anytime you hear the word group, it means you're going to have to interact with it because there are more items in that group. I'll go ahead and swipe right on my trackpad with 2 fingers to interact. You could also VO shift down arrow.
In desktop group. Content is empty.
You heard it say content is empty when I interacted, and that's because there's nothing on my desktop yet. This is a pretty new computer, so I haven't had time to completely make a mess of my desktop by saving everything to it with no organization. And I don't have any flash drives plugged in, so nothing is going to show up here right now. But if you did have things on your desktop or you did have external drives plugged in, then those would show up in that group and you could VO arrow through them. Now, if you don't want to have to interact with groups like this on your desktop and throughout Finder, you can change the view of the Finder, and I actually recommend that you do change it because it will make it a lot easier to navigate with VoiceOver on. There are several different views included with macOS. I believe we are currently in icon view. That's what it starts out in by default. You can change it to list view, which is my preference. It makes everything a lot easier to move through. So for the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to go ahead and switch it to list view, and that's what I'm going to do the rest of this tutorial in because that's what I use every single day, and I think that's the most accessible option with VoiceOver. To do that, I'm going to open a new Finder window so that we'll go actually into the File Explorer equivalent on macOS. I'm going to press Command N to open that new window.
New Finder window. Now in Recents window. Icon View Collection.
So you heard that open my recent files section, and it said Icon View Collection. So now we're going to change that to List View, and it's going to change the layout and look of Finder. To do that, I'm going to press Command 2.
As list check. List view table. No selection.
And now, instead of it being an icon collection, you heard it say List View Table. So this is now a table that I can interact with. I'll do that now with VO Shift down arrow.
In list view table. No selection.
And now there are different columns in this table. We're on the name column, and I'll just VO down arrow to show you my recent files in this list.
Sample Word document. Microsoft Word document.
So that says sample Word document, and it told you it was a Microsoft Word document. That is a file that I created for the File Explorer demo in this video, and it's the most recent thing I've opened, so it's showing up here. We could keep VO arrowing down this list if we wanted. For now, I'm going to go ahead and uninteract with this table with VO Shift up arrow.
Out of list view table.
You heard it say out of list view table. Now I'm going to jump to the top of this window with function VO left arrow.
Name button group.
You heard it say name button. So this is still kind of a little thing that contains the list view table. I'm going to VO arrow through this to show you what all is here.
Kind button group. Date as open. Descending order button group. List view table.
So you heard the different pieces of information in that window, and the bottom thing is the list view table. So when you interact with this little thing, you will function VO right arrow to jump to the bottom, and that's your table that you'll interact with to get to your files. I'm going to go ahead and uninteract with this section.
Out of school area.
That is a scroll area. So when you want to get to your files, you'll have to first interact with the scroll area and then go down to the list view and interact with that, and you can move through it with VO up and down arrow as a list. Now I'm going to function VO left arrow again, and we're going to go through everything in this actual Finder window and how to navigate the file system.
Toolbar.
So the first thing you land on when you jump to the top of this window is the toolbar. I'm not going to interact with that and show you all the things in it because it's pretty self-explanatory. When you interact with the toolbar, you can just swipe through it or VO arrow through it and VO space to activate things. This is where you can go to change the view of the Finder back to icon view or change it in any other way you want. And there are a couple of other menus in there that are fairly self-explanatory, so I will let you guys look through that on your own time. Now I'm going to move to the right of the toolbar.
Sidebar table. Recent clock image. Selected.
So this is the sidebar, and this is where you're going to navigate kind of the equivalent of that tree view in Windows. So this is where you can move through your list of folders that are within your file system. Right now my recents folder is selected because that's what automatically opens when you open a new Finder window. I'm going to go ahead and interact with this, and we'll move through the list just with VO up and down arrow.
In sidebar table. Recent applications. Desktop. Documents. Document image.
So I just VO down arrow to my documents folder. Now we're going to uninteract.
Out of sidebar table.
And now my documents folder is selected. So we're going to VO right arrow.
Vertical splitter.
That is a vertical splitter that you can pretty much ignore if you're a VoiceOver user.
Scroll area.
And here's that scroll area that I was talking about earlier. We'll go ahead and interact with that.
In scroll area.
And now I'll function VO right arrow to jump to the bottom.
List view table.
Here's our list view table. We'll interact.
In list view table.
And now I'll VO down arrow.
Reaper media folder.
That's the Reaper Media folder for my audio editing software.
Sample pages document pages document.
And here's the sample pages document that I created to use in this tutorial. So one of the ways that macOS differs from Windows is the way that you open files and work with files in the File Explorer, or in this case, the Finder. On Windows, I was really used to just pressing Enter to open documents within the File Explorer, and when you press Enter on Mac, this is what happens.
Sample pages document. Content selected. Edit text.
It opens a field where you can rename the document. So that's something that we don't want to do right now. I'm just going to press Escape. But if you did need to rename your file, that's how you do it.
Documents. Window. Sample pages document pages document. Column 1. Row 3 cells 2 items.
So I pressed Escape, that closed the rename field, and now we're back on our Pages document. Something else that's a little different with the Finder is that you can preview files by pressing the space bar. I'll press space now to show you that.
Now in quick look window. Sample pages document pages web content.
So this opened Quick Look, and it put me in the document web content. Anytime you hear web content, you also need to interact, so I'll do that now.
Preview 0.pdf image.
And you heard it say preview 0.pdf. Basically, that's just showing you a little image associated with the document in Finder. Unfortunately, the quick look for a Pages document doesn't seem to be accessible, but I do really like this feature for audio files. For instance, if you have an MP3 file or something that you need to listen to, you can use the quick look feature by pressing space on it, and it'll open kind of a small media player situation, and you can VO arrow through it, rewind, fast forward, volume up, volume down, all the things you would want in a basic media player. So that is super useful. Unfortunately, I didn't put a media file in this folder for us to look at today, but it is fairly self-explanatory. I'm going to press Escape to close Quick Look now.
Now in documents window. Sample pages document pages document.
And now we're back in the Documents folder on our Sample Pages document. Now, to actually open this document in Pages, we'll press Command O. I'll do that now.
Open pages. Sample pages document window. Document layout area has keyword focus.
So that opened Pages and placed us in the document layout area. We don't need to do anything in Pages right now, so I'm going to Command Q this away.
Finder. Documents window. Sample pages document pages document.
And now we're back in the Documents folder on that Sample Pages document. Now, let's say we have a Microsoft Word file or a file in a different format that we want to open in a specific app that isn't its default app. So I'm going to VO down, and we've got a Word doc here.
Sample Word document. Microsoft Word document.
You heard it say Sample Word document, Microsoft Word document. As you can hear, it is saying the file extensions at the end of this. So if I Command O on this document right now, it's going to try to open it in Microsoft Word, and it can't do that right now because Word isn't installed on this computer. But if it was installed, that's what would happen. And I personally prefer to avoid Word for Mac whenever possible. It's not completely inaccessible or anything. It's just not my favorite because Pages exists and is better in my opinion. So whenever I have a Word document and I don't specifically need to do something in Word, I open it in Pages, and this is going to be useful for all kinds of media files and things like that. To use the Open With feature, we're going to access the context menu for this file by VO Shift M.
Menu, 13 items.
Not open the menu, now we can VO arrow through this.
Open. Open with submenu.
Now we've got the Open With menu. I'll VO right arrow to go into that submenu.
Open with submenu. 4 items. Pages default.
Pages is the first thing in this menu. It says it's the default because Word isn't here, but if Word were installed, then Word would be the default for this document, and you would need to arrow down to Pages and just VO space on this.
Example Word document members offered. Pages. Cancel button. Now, dim. Format. Move. Resize items within the document.
And now we've opened this sample Word document in Pages. Again, we don't need to do anything in Pages right now, so we'll Command Q out of here.
Finder. Documents. Window.
And now we are back in the Documents folder on that sample Word document. Okay, now I'm going to talk about copying, cutting, and pasting files because that's something that I personally do a lot and it is a little bit different from Windows. So we're going to make a new folder to copy and paste files into. I'm going to do that by pressing Command Shift N.
New folder. Cells items. Column 1. Row 6 collapsed. Untitled folder. Content selected. Edit text.
And this open a text field where I can type in the name of my folder. We're just going to call it Demo Docs.
Select E. N. O. Yellow. D. O. C. S.
And I'll press Enter to create that folder.
Documents. Window. Demo Docs folder. Column 1. Row 2 cells 2 edits.
And now we have a new folder called Demo Docs that we can move our documents to. So first I'm just going to copy and paste a file. Let's go to that sample Pages file that I created. We'll VO up from this folder until we get to there.
Sample Word document members offered document. Sample Pages document. Pages document.
And here's our Pages document. To copy it, we'll press Command C.
Copy. Sample Pages document.
Now we'll VO arrow back to our Demo Docs folder.
Sample reader media folder. Demo Docs folder. Collapsed.
And to open this folder, we'll Command O.
Open. List view table.
We'll interact with this table.
In list view table.
And to paste it, we'll press Command V as in victory.
Paste item.
And now VO arrow.
Sample Pages document. Pages document.
As you can see, we've got the sample Pages document inside our Demo Docs folder. Now to get back out of this folder, we're going to use the back command, which is Command left bracket.
Back. List view table. No selection.
And we are back in our Documents folder. Now, let's say I want to cut a file out of the Documents folder and put it in the Demo Docs folder. On Windows, you would press Command X, but that is not a thing on macOS. So, for starters, we're going to go find our sample Word document.
In list view table. Demo Docs folder. Reader media folder. Sample Pages document. Sample Word document. Members offered document.
Here's our sample Word document. So, we're just going to copy it as we did before with Command C.
Copy. Sample Word document.
Now we're going to go back up to our Demo Docs folder.
Sample Pages document. Reader media folder. Demo Docs folder. Collapsed.
We'll open it with Command O.
Open. List view table.
Interact with the table.
In list view table.
And to cut it or paste it in here and take it out of the Documents folder completely, we'll use Command Option V as in victory.
Move item here.
And instead of just saying paste like it did when we just copied, you heard it say move item here. So now that file is gone from the Documents folder and it's pasted into the Demo Docs folder. Okay, so now that we've got our Pages file and our Word file in here, they're the same document, so we don't need the Pages file anymore. I'll VO arrow to the Pages file.
Sample Pages document. Pages document.
And to delete this document, we'll press Command Delete.
Move the trash. Sample Word document. Members offered document.
And you heard it say move to trash, so now the only file in here is the sample Word document. That completes the basic overview of the Finder and file structure, so I'm going to go ahead and close out of here with Command W.
Close window. Desktop group.
And we're back on the desktop where we started. Now I'm just going to show you a couple of miscellaneous keystrokes that are really useful for navigating different elements of the Finder in macOS. So one that I personally use a lot is the Downloads keystroke. This will let you open your Downloads folder without going through the new Finder window on the sidebar and all of that. To do that, we'll press Command Option L.
Downloads. Now in Downloads window. List view table. No selection.
You heard that open our Downloads folder. So this is in a Finder window just like what we were working with. I can interact with this table.
In list view table. SLUS 2.12.1.3 document 6 6
And I VO arrowed, and that read the name of a plugin that I had downloaded. I can uninteract.
Out of list view table.
And uninteract again with the scroll area.
Out of scroll area.
VO left arrow.
Vertical splitter. Sidebar table.
There's the sidebar that will let you move through the folders in the Finder. I'm going to go ahead and Command W again to go back to the desktop.
Close window. Desktop group.
Now, let's say you need to get to your applications folder where everything gets installed. Say you need to open an app that you haven't pinned to your dock yet because you don't use it super often. You can open a new Finder window and go through that sidebar, or you can press Command-Shift-A.
Applications. Now in applications window. Icon view collection.
So that opened our application folder. For some reason, this is still in icon view, and I don't want it in icon view, so we're going to press Command-2 to put it in list view.
As list check. List view table.
And now your application folder is shown as a list in a table, just like everything else we've been navigating in the Finder. You can interact with that, move through your applications, and Command-O to open them. We'll close out of this again with Command-W.
Close window. Desktop. Empty group.
The last thing I'm going to show you guys today is the Apple menu and status bar, because this is something that you will probably need to access pretty soon after starting with your first Mac. To get to the Apple menu bar, we'll press VOM.
Menu bar Apple.
So this first thing that we land on is the Apple menu bar that's got the About This Mac section and all kinds of just different status things. You can get to system preferences from here, I believe. We'll VO arrow to the right.
Finder. File. Edit. View. Go. Window. Help. Help.
So you heard me move across different menus, and to go into any of those menus, you can just VO down arrow. If there's a submenu, you'll VO right arrow. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to go through everything in here today because we'd be here for an hour, but if that's something you guys are interested, I can do an in-depth tutorial on the Apple menu bar and everything in it. This is something that you will probably need to access, and I believe it's at the top, so if someone tells you you need to go to the menu at the top, that's what they're talking about. I'm going to go ahead and hit escape.
Closing menu. Desktop. Empty group.
Now I'm going to show you what Voiceover calls menu extras and what I call the status bar. This is kind of where like your date and time and battery status and any extra little things like your Wi-Fi or your iCloud or Dropbox sync status, things like that live. To access that, we'll hold down the VO keys, Control and Option, and press M twice.
Menu extras. Stop recording. Menu extra.
So you heard it say menu extras, and the first thing is stop recording. That's just because I'm running the QuickTime screen recording right now. You won't have this if you're not doing that. I'm just going to quickly VO right arrow through this menu so you can see what's here.
Now playing. Menu extra. 94% charging. Battery. Wi-Fi connected. 3 bars. Menu extra. Search. Search. Menu extra. Control center. Microphone in use. Menu extra. Siri. Siri. Menu extra. Monday, June 19th, 36 p.m. Clock. Menu extra.
So those are all the things that show up here by default. You can also add things to this menu if that's supported. Different things built into macOS can be added to this menu, and some apps will let you add things to this menu to see information related to that specific program. I personally really like using this menu to access my Bluetooth and Wi-Fi settings because you can get to it super fast. You just VO space on the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth icon and it opens the settings for those things, and you can VO arrow through it and VO space to select things as needed. And that is the last thing I'm going to show you guys in this video. We are going to go ahead and transition back to my face now for the outro. That concludes this introduction to navigating a Mac using VoiceOver. If you have any questions or suggestions for future content, please leave those in the comments below or send us an email through the contact form on challengesolutions.org. Please give this video a thumbs up so the YouTube algorithm continues to know we exist, and share this link with anyone you think could benefit from it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in another video.